service. From Campbellville streets to the Pomeroon tide, you carried your dreams with honor and pride. Surveyor by trade, with compass in hand, mapping the future across Guyana's land. 25 men looking up to your lead, building through challenges, planting good seed. Through rivers and forests, through sunshine and rain, you taught us that purpose is greater than gain. Oh, Sammy, we salute you today. A father, a leader who showed us the way. From Guyana to America, your legacy shines, written in hearts and beyond the timelines. Happy Father's Day, this song we bring, for the wisdom and love that your life still sings. Back when the notes were written by hand, no satellites guiding the work on the land, drafting through evenings by lantern light glow, creating the pathways that help Guyana grow. Now robots and drones do what crews used to do, but they can't replace the character found in you. The lessons of patience, integrity too, remain as a compass for all that we do. Oh, Sammy, we salute you today. A father, a leader who showed us the way. From Guyana to America, your legacy shines, written in hearts and beyond the timelines. Happy Father's Day, this song we bring, for the wisdom and love that your life still sings. To your children and family, your story lives on, a reminder that hard work can never be gone. From Atlanta to Maryland, your influence grows, like the mighty Pomeroon River that steadily flows. Oh, Sammy, we salute you today. A father, a mentor who paved the way. May your journey inspire every daughter and son to finish with honor what they have begun. Happy Father's Day from DJ Quinn, my friend. May God's richest blessings upon you descend. Campbellville raised you, Guyana shaped you, fatherhood crowned you, and your legacy continues.
That's right. Your legacy continues. Sammy Langevine, I'm telling you, it is a great honor to have you on Forefront today. I am taking this privilege to bring you before the world right here in CRL 365 for a Father's Day edition interview with Sammy Langevine, a strong format. That's right. We'll definitely have a conversation about him. And so good evening to you, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of Forefront Today. I'm your host, DJ Quinn, and tonight we celebrate Father's Day by spotlighting a remarkable Guyanese son, father, a leader, surveyor, project manager, mentor, and community-minded individual, Mr. Sammy Langevine. His journey has taken him from the streets of Campbellville, Georgetown, Guyana, into the deep interiors of Pomeroon, of the Pomeroon River and beyond, and eventually leading him to a major telecommunications project in the United States. And tonight we discuss perseverance, leadership, fatherhood, migration, technology, national development, and lessons for the next generation. Please help me welcome my friend, Mr. Slick Rick, Mr. Sammy Langevine, to the forefront today. Welcome, Sammy. But I can't hear you now, Sammy, so let me see. All right, now I'm hearing you. Good. Come closer.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you, DJ Quinn.
Awesome, awesome. You have any other gadgets on? You want to turn it down for me so that it don't distract you?
Yeah, I don't think I got anything other than my phone here, and it's turned down. Let me turn it off. Right.
Awesome. I'm gonna be talking to Mr. Sammy Langevine, and y'all see how slick he is, man. I'm telling you, this man got a wealth of knowledge, and I'll be pulling from his brain tonight so that you guys can be all edified. I want to take this time to welcome those of you who are joining us on Facebook and on YouTube, and from Sammy's page and everywhere else. Thank you so much for coming on in. As you come in, please say good night to Mr. Sammy Langevine. Forget about me. Say good night to Mr. Sammy Langevine. He is a retiree. He could have been doing anything else with his time tonight, but he's lending his wisdom and knowledge to us, and I am so appreciative of that tonight. So please say good night to Mr. Sammy Langevine. You don't have to say anything to me at all. I want to take you into your childhood, Sammy Langevine. Welcome once again to the forefront today, childhood and community discussions we're going to have here for us. Tell us about you growing up in Campbellville, Guyana, South America. I can't hear you, Sammy. One more time, I can't hear you. Check to see what is your what are you, if your song is, what song are you using? You got an earpiece or you're using from the computer itself? Check to see on your computer that your sound, check on your sound. What are you using default sound? Right. Come again. Still can't hear you. So I'm a bounce out the link and come back in, Sammy. Go out and come back in. All right, I'm talking to Sammy Langevine. You know, these gadgets, retirees don't always get it right. But Sammy, if you hear me, just go all the way out. Let me remove you completely, and so you can go out and come back in. Let me see. Let me take you out. Sammy, are you in? Are you hearing me? I still can't hear you, Sammy. Still can't hear you. You have to check on your microphone. See it's connected, whatever gadget you're using. We checked it out. It worked fine just now, so I know what you did. You're not muted. Are you hearing me? Just shake your head if you hear me. All right, just come out of the link and come back in. Remove yourself from the link, come back in. Maybe it's not good. All right, talking to Sammy Langevine, and folks are coming on in. It's a good time for you to get ready. You get some pen and paper. Perhaps he's going to be talking about his journey from Campbellville to interior to USA to putting up those towers around the country. Some of you are getting good signals on your phone because of Sammy's work, putting up these cell towers around the country. Some of you would know Guyana better because he is the one who drafted most of these regions in the interior, in the Pomeroon especially. And so we tend to forget where we came from. But here's a man who is still here with us. And I'm hoping that storytelling would be interesting tonight for you all. Thank you so much for those of you coming on in and saying good night, like Miss Maureen John. Good night to you, Miss Maureen. And good night to those of you coming on in. Good night to you, my sister-in-law, Kelly Harlequin, there from Suicide. That's the Puri lady. If you guys go to Guyana, you can get that Puri there by the Cozy Nook. Ask for the Puri lady, just behind the Cozy Nook there. If you're coming back from Guyana anytime, please bring some for me with some loud sour. Ask for the Puri girl and Auntie Baby over there by the Cozy Nook. To my folks who are peeping in, please come on in and say good night. I'm trying to get Sammy come back in on the link. because our young folks like Sammy, technology is with us. So please be patient as we bring Sammy Langevine back to us on his gadget. But we're going to have this interview tonight because we both got off the road and we didn't want to put it off because this weekend is Father's Day, and I might not have a chance to interview a father this weekend. So he'll be filling in the gap for the questioning about why we ought to celebrate our fathers this weekend and about Juneteenth. Some of you know that this weekend, lots of offices will be closed on Friday because there is a Juneteenth mandatory celebration. So please don't go to work if you don't have to, and make sure you celebrate it by your T-shirts, by your postings, by remembering those who paved the way for us, because those of us who forget to remember is doomed to live in ignorance. So please let us know these things, that these awareness that we ought to look at. This month of June, we're celebrating men's mental health. We also celebrating Father's Day this weekend, and the football is World Cup is on. I know some of you following it, and I think New Jersey going to be having a game. And so let's rep who we repping for. Mexico did well the first game, and we're hoping that USA will come up on top, and so that we can have some things to celebrate. Shouts out also to the Knicks celebration still happening on tomorrow in New York. There'll be a parade in New York for the Knicks. Came back after 53 years and 27 years in the finals. Congratulations to the Knicks and to Mr. Brunson, the captain of the team, his father, who also was a football player. Definitely what a good moment to see father and son really do it. Understand Brunson give up some of his pay so that they could hire the right people that he wants to come into the team. And you will hear them talk a lot about empathy, about looking out for each other, which we ought to really get back into those soft skills. A lot of time we think about ourselves and we lack empathy, concern for others, and we want them to make us succeed. But you have to go back and support people. You have to, be concerned about their well-being, ask about some things. Some of us work with some people we don't even know their real name. Where is the empathy? I mean, I know you don't need to make real best friends on the job, but we need to have some concern. You see somebody limping, you see somebody didn't come to work for 2-3 days, no empathy, and people are dying in the homes, and they're being found 2-3 days afterwards because nobody is checking on them. And so I want us to think about what the Knicks talk about empathy. Hello, Sammy. Welcome back. Are you hearing me loud and clear, Sammy? Sammy, check your audio. Are you hearing me? Shake your head, Sammy. Shake your head if you hear me. Sammy. All right, he's going to bounce out again while I talk to you some more. He has to get accustomed to fixing his audio. And guys, one of you might be next on my platform because I'm spotlighting people like Sammy, who has done some great work in this world and bringing it to the forefront, which is why this channel is forefront today, spotlighting you who are doing great things. I'm finding you, and it might just be you next. And when you come on, you want to use a computer or your iPod, so you free up your phone, and you want to see where your sound is going to. So you want to make sure your sound is correct and going out. We checked it and it was fine, but it happens when people might touch a gadget and something happened. Yeah. Are you back on, Sam? You hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you hearing me now?
Loud and clear. So keep it right there. Don't touch nothing. All you got to do is answer questions tonight, okay? Don't touch a thing, Sammy. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so it's a good time for you to say good night to the folks I've been saying good night to. We got Maureen on here. We got Abiola, Elizabeth. We got Don Major over there in, what's that? Cayman Island. Good night to you. And say good night to the people, Sammy.
Hi, good night, guys. It's a pleasure to be here with you, DJ Quinn. And, just ask away. I'm at your service.
I like that. I like that. You see, I like when people don't ask me, now, what kind of questions you can be asking me? Because I could get real deep, I can go all the way down to your childhood.
Just go
all the way down. Yeah, where I used to pelt mangoes and play hopscotch and litty too. I could go all the way down there,
Well, some of the things we can't talk about.
Oh, right. I know. So I will leave that out for next time. You and I are going to talk it over 2 glasses later on. But yeah, you were talking about your upbringing in Campbellville in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, my hometown. Tell us some more about your upbringing over there.
Yeah, well, I started there in the Newtown Kitty Campbellville area. That's where I went to primary school, and that's where my memory kind of starts there. One of the things, I come from a very large family. There were 12 of us. My
The
dad,
Langevines.
yeah, my dad was a police officer. My mom was always there for guidance and everything. One of the things that was primary in our family was education. I mean, we stressed that right from the start. And when I look back at it, sometimes I wonder how, my parents managed, especially in an education situation with 12 of us, right? It was a big
Wow.
family. And one of the things I remembered my dad always told us is, look, you guys don't need a lot of friends outside. You got friends right in here. There's enough of you here, to satisfy yourself. So we were always, kind of self-contained. But I learned very early, because my dad was a police officer, to be polite and, to everybody in the street. And don't get too close to people. Just manage your own situation. The old situation, morning and howdy, break no bones. And that's how we grew up, with everybody in the street. And it was communal. I mean, if you did anything on the road, somebody would get home and tell your parents sometime before you got home. So that's the way we lived back there. That's how I grew up, in that kind of community living.
And that's like a village right there. So your neighbor knew your name and you should
It
know your
really was.
parents.
It really was. And then I had an aunt, right across the street, and the people next door. That's where you go to Sunday school and all of that. So it was like one big family.
Awesome. I like that. I grew up several places. So I grew up in a lot of villages. And so shout out to all my village people if you're watching. Thank you so much for helping me grow. What was Campbellville like during your childhood though, Sammy? I know
Well,
I lived in Newtown Kitty, and in the days I was there in the 70s, there was some flooding. So tell us your experience.
yeah, it was a lot of flooding. It was kind of rural. Um, I remember it was not until I was about 15 or 16 or thereabouts that we had a refrigerator. We would go every day to the market, and you would buy, some fish or greens or whatever. So whatever we did, we ate fresh food all the time. And then my dad had, we had a lot of chickens and sheep and everything that we had to do those kinds of things before we went to school and after we came home. So we had a ritual, and that's where I learned, especially as it pertains to my children, cultivate good habits. If I would tell anything to any like young parents, get your kids to do some housework, not because you want to punish them or anything, but it becomes a ritual. You start to learn things. You get up, you make up your bed first thing in the morning. You go, you do your work, prepare for school. Um, as a matter of fact, back in those days, we built little rat traps so that we can catch live rodents. And we were not too far from the zoo. We would walk every morning with the rats that we caught and carry them to the zoo, and they would feed them to the snakes, and they would pay us for that, right? So,
Oh,
I mean, 25 cents a rodent was a big set of money back in those
yeah,
days. So
yeah.
that's how I grew up doing things like that. We walked, we rode our bicycle. Um, I never heard about, cholesterol and all that stuff. We walked, we ran, we would go to the seawalls and swim sometimes before you go to school. And that was Newtown Kitty, the way I grew up. I mean, that's just the way we live.
Well, my memory of it is that they had some cocklebelly fish in those trenches over there that we used to take a basket and pull some up, and we added some good fries. But then I also remember those days there was some yellow buses. So I don't want you to miss that because I wanna go back in memory land with you. the yellow buses, I remember when they were building those roads. We used to climb on those at the back of those yellow buses and get a ride into Campbellville Kitty, and at the end of the road and walk back and all that stuff. So tell us about those days. You remember?
Correct. But as I told you, my dad was a police officer. And if he caught us doing that, that was big trouble. But I can remember those yellow buses. They ran along Duncan Street. And I remember on Saturday mornings, my mom would go out there, catch the bus to go to Border Market and do the shopping and so on. And then we would ride and pick up whatever produce she had, and she would take the bus and come. And if I'm not mistaken, the bus was like 5 cents or 10 cents, and it had a turnstile, right?
Yeah.
But what you were talking about with riding the bus and hanging on to the back there,
Come on, Sammy, that's good childhood days, Sammy. That is adventurous. You know, you fall along sometimes, bruise up your knees, and you get up and go again.
Well,
you know,
that's the other thing. I look now and I see the children nowadays doing everything with batteries and so on. We built our go-karts, and sometimes I wonder how we survived. I mean, we would lie flat on those go-karts and just somebody push you, and there were not a lot of cars then, so you just go down on the road and
that was fun. Oh yeah, scooters and go-karts. Oh yes.
And we made them.
Yeah, you go to the industrial area, you get your bearings. We call it the bearings.
Yeah,
and you get your wood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. We would make that and have fun, right? It's amazing what you can do with a little cap pistol. I mean, we were out all day just playing and doing stuff like that.
So Sammy, did you take the sulfur from the matchstick and put it in your mama's key for the cabinet and put a nail in it and hit it on the ground and make that explosion, Sammy? Did you have those kind of days?
We had something. We used to put it in a can and light a
carbon.
Carbon. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you got to be very careful with that, or you can take off a finger with that thing, right? But that's the way we lived. Sometimes I sit and I think, we're here. I'm now in my 70s, and I wonder, how do we do that? Right?
Yeah. Did you and your boys have a live band with some saucepan, tin cups, pots and pans, and some papa stem as trumpet and flutes over in Campbellville?
No, well, what we used to do, the things that I remember most, for those of you who might know the Campbellville area, at the back of the gardens and all that used to be cane field. And we would go there and we would swim. And I'm not quite sure when it was that I first entered a swimming pool. I mean, we would just jump in the canal and occasionally at the back of the gardens there, we would go and, you would take off your clothes and just swim naked, because the other side was cane field, actually. Where is now Sophia, those who know Guyana. Back in the days, that used to be cane field. And we would go back there, swim across the canal, and to steal cane. And their wardens back there, they actually used to shoot you with patty, right?
Yeah.
So
that was the Blacker area. You called it Blacker? Was that the Blacker area? Okay.
Yeah. So you that's what we used to do. And what I remember is, because the water was so silty, when you come home after school, your skin would be white.
Oh man, you got to walk with your coconut oil, Sammy. Did you have some coconut oil?
Well, we learned that afterwards. we learned that you got to whip in when your skin was white. And so we learned the coconut oil thing, and we walked with our coconut oil. And then you came home, and now your skin is too shine. So they know anyway. So you busted if you do, and you busted if you don't, right?
I'm telling you, man. Sammy, can you imagine me as black as I be, coming home ashy, and then shiny after? Could you imagine that, man?
DJ Quinn, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But listen, we will still go the next day, though. Legs don't stop us, right?
Well, you
Yeah,
do
we
what
still
you got to do.
adventurous. Right, right,
You do
right.
what you have to do. So that was
Yeah.
Campbellville back in the days, right? You know, you just you know, and you go to the shop and you would buy your stuff and the price is like a loaf of bread probably was 5 cents or something like that. But you know, after that, I remember taking common entrance at I think it was St. Winifred School,
Oh,
which
that's
was
my school there, Newtown Kitty, there by the Silver and Dan Rad. Yeah,
well,
yeah, that was
that's
my
where I took
school.
common entrance by Garnet Street, right? That's where I took common entrance from, right? And and I remember well, I missed the common entrance by 1 mark, and that's why I missed Queens College and I ended up going at Saints because that was the
Oh,
you know they had the rotation. That was the
yeah,
next
trickle down school. That's
yeah
right.
that was the next one, right? And
Yeah,
back in
my
those
story
days,
is,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Sammy.
back in those days, Saints and QC now it's co-ed. They were all boys, right?
No.
I was taught by Jesuits, most of them priests and so on. It was a wild
Okay.
time.
Hmm. But kudos to your mom. She made 12 kids. My mom made 11 kids. Kudos to mama, man. Yeah, and listen, I don't know how every other year, every 18 months, I don't know how they did it. But kudos to my mom. 11 of us and you 12.
Well, you know, DJ Quinn, I my mom passed 2 years ago, and what was the most interesting thing to me when I showed up there, I was surprised at the amount of people from the street that I saw. Right, I I had no idea where they were, where they lived, or anything, but they, you know, I guess part of it is Facebook now and stuff like that. The word was out, and I saw people showed up there that I had not seen for years. Some of the people I
People your
grew up
mama probably fed. She probably fed them and clothed them.
with.
Kept
And
them there.
they still call her Mama Shirls because her name was Shirley. So she's Mama Shirls to everybody, right? And you know, it was wonderful to reconnect with those guys and everything, right?
Awesome. But I heard you talk about bicycle, man. Did you have a rally bike, a 20, a chopper? What did you have some nickel fenders, nickel
No,
spokes? Were you
I
using your
had
bike to catch the girls, Sammy? Were you
no,
riding into Campbellville and your bike is going tick, 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 and the girls follow you, Sammy?
no. I didn't have that. I had a regular, you know, sports model bike, and I remember going to Metropole Cinema, and somebody stole it, and my dad decided this ain't happening again. So he bought one of those Big Ben bikes like he used to ride. Right? So that was
Right,
my
right.
bike for school because his attitude was that they wouldn't steal that.
They wouldn't steal
Right?
the Big Ben. They wouldn't steal the Big Ben.
Yeah. So that was the bike that I had to ride to school. It was kind of embarrassing, but nobody stole it.
Hmm.
Mm.
Any knowledge, background information on why they named that village Campbellville?
No, I have no. I suspect, and from the little research that I did, that it had something to do. I know Kitty was some one of the colonial guys, the daughter of one of those colonial guys, and that was the name of his daughter, Kitty something. And Campbellville was also another colonial person by the name of Campbell, right? And that's how it got that name, right?
Awesome, awesome. I'm talking to the one and only Sammy Langevine, man. He is a product of Shirley, man. 12 kids. Kudos to that lady, man. I'm telling you. Nowadays, women are not making more than 4 or 5 kids. I want to say good night to you, Lynette Pierre. We work together over there at Sonata Textile. Bonita, she's doing big things in the community. I'd like to know the people who are doing great things that I can spotlight them here tonight as you come on in. Say good night to Mr. Sammy Langevine, please. Sammy, I know you just didn't get big like this. Somebody influenced your life while you were living there in Campbellville. You know, someone was influential. Who would that be? Or who would those people be?
Well, we had a large family, but then my dad's family was large too. A lot of uncles and aunts and everybody. One of my I kind of got into construction because one of my uncles was there was a British company called Taylor Woodrow who did a lot of work in Guyana. And one of my uncles, my dad's older brother, he was a superintendent for Taylor Woodrow. And actively, he was one of those who worked on the Bank of Guyana building. Um, and I used to remember going to the museum, which was next door to the Bank of Guyana building, when they were actually building the Bank of Guyana. And I would look out from the museum and I would see Uncle Robert, that was his name, working on that building. He was, like I said, he was the superintendent there. My dad's family were into construction. A lot of them were contractors, they were carpenters, they did a lot of that stuff because my granddad, my dad's father, was a contractor too. So there was a line of contractors into carpentry, a lot of military guys, a lot of them were into the police force and the early GDF, they used to call them the riot squad, the ones who used to wear the khaki clothes and so on.
Oh yeah, TSU.
TSU, Tactical Service Unit. Yeah, I had uncles who were in there. And so that was the background that I came from. And my dad ran the family, he ran a tight ship. He didn't even like to see us walking the road with our shirt out of our pants. It was a very disciplined environment that we were in, right? And
I could imagine the etiquette.
My dad insisted on that. One of the things I always remember is my mom, who was a little bit more lenient, growing up. Some of us didn't want to eat this, we don't like this food, and so on. And my mom would try to accommodate us. And I remember my dad coming in one day and he said, "Shirley, there are 12 of them and there are 2 of us. And I'm not even sure if you are going to vote with me. But you cook one pot. They're going to eat whatever it is you had there." And that was the end of that. Right? My dad laid down the rules and that was it. Right? So we ate some stuff that we didn't really like, but, we had to eat it or starve. So,
I'm telling you.
That was
what I want to know, Sammy. My mom, when she was calling us to eat, she would call us down in the succession, from the oldest one to the youngest one. How did mom or dad call you guys to the table to eat? And what was it like? Did you eat with your shirt off? What was the etiquette at the table?
No, we couldn't do that at all, right? You couldn't eat with your shirt off, and everybody had to sit there together and so on. It was only like on weekends my dad would eat with us, but my mom would take out his dinner and put it aside there, and everybody would
cover down with a tablecloth. Was it that tablecloth kind of setup?
It was something with a cover over it, and that was dad's food, and everybody else would eat there. One of the things, because the family was so large, we were not big on clothes. The first long pants I wear was, I think, was a police serge. That black serge pants that the police force used to wear.
Oh,
my dad got some of that cloth from the thing, and that was my first long pants. And
was that gabardine?
I don't even know what it was. I know it was hot.
Oh yeah, might be gabardine.
Yeah, So, but we had certain, and one of the things I remember was one week we would be downstairs doing the yard work or so on, and the next week we were upstairs in the kitchen with mom. So all the boys, we know how to cook because we had to do that. We learned from watching mom too. So there was no girl work or boy work or so on. You come up there and you wash the wares and you cook like everybody else. We just learned that.
There was nothing fanky about you fellas.
Nothing at all.
You guys were sure about yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
But how did mom call you guys? Did she say, Sammy? Did she call y'all name? Give me mom's call.
Well, yeah. She there were so many of us. Sometimes she misspoke the name. Sometimes if she was calling Sammy Lloyd or sometimes she would get the name on the third try or so on. You know, it was just too many to do that.
I empathize with the lady. I empathize. 12 is a lot. 12 is definitely a lot.
Yeah,
I know mom
tell
would
you,
call.
She was there. She was there, man. She was there to back us up all the time. You know. It's nice to come home and know somebody is there, right? It doesn't matter what, she was there, right? All the time.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, from having good manners to table etiquette for, you know, roles in the home, looking back, what life lessons from your childhood still guides you today?
Well, most of us in Guyana, one of the things I remember, you know, and I still have a problem with lying. You know, you grow up with the whole thing, speak the truth and speak it ever, cost it what it will. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know, we learned that right from jump. You know, right from the start, we had to do that. And I found out later that, you know, as I told you, I met some of the guys from the street during mom's funeral, and some people were very candid. I mean, I had no idea that about the impact we had on the street, especially, you know, we grew up in a way that when you're going to school, you walk, you stay focused. You don't stop and play about anything. You just go. So, and I keep bringing this back up because my dad was a policeman. One of the things he told us, you know, be careful who you associate with. He said, I know the way police operate. If they see a bunch of guys doing stupid stuff, they're not going to say it's those 5 bad guys and that one good guy. They're going to say, lump all of you together. So we learned to say, just keep moving, keep focused on what you have to do, and bypass, let me put it this way, bypass the stupid stuff.
Listen, back in those days, I guess I could imagine police officer would just pass by, you guys would shake in your pants. Your mom would just have to go there and say, I want you to talk to Sammy. And he would just say, come here, sir. Come here, young man. And what would happen if that happens to you, Sammy?
Well, it never happened. But what used to be fun for me, because dad was a trooper. He was the one who would ride the horse. And I remember, like at Christmas times or holidays, you know, they used to patrol in 2. And this, they would come up by the house and they would go in to have a drink. And we would be standing out there with the reins of 2 horses while those guys go in to have a little drink and so on. Man, you know, when you're standing there with 2 police horses, you're the big man on the street, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were going to have a quick drink and come back and go on. And the other thing was, like, you know, cricket at the GCC ground and so on. My dad would usually be working there. And once he's there on crowd patrol, he would just say, you know, let the guys in.
Sammy,
man.
come on in, Sammy, yeah.
Yeah, we would get a pass to go in right away, you know.
Yeah. That's the privilege of having a cop for dad, man. Some of my police friends retired are here with us. I want to say good night to all of you. Thank you for your service in the Guyana Police Force. Stokely, how you doing, brother? Good night to you. Miss Bonita was a cop also. And I know David was with the, what you call, the people who check your barrels when you go to Guyana. And you know, what you call that, Sammy, you know. The people who...
Yeah, the customs guy, right?
Customs guy, right. The brokers and stuff.
Well, a lot of those guys, depending on how far back they go, might know my Uncle Cyril, because at one time he was in training school. He was part of the, you know, the
Cyril Langevine,
yeah, that was my uncle.
Name.
That's my dad's brother. Yeah.
Awesome. Sabrina Sumar Kelly, we got some police officers gonna be listening in, so Sammy, behave yourself, okay? Uh, that they might still pull ranks on you, right? Be careful.
Hey, I'm too old for that, man.
Well, we're talking to Sammy Langevine, man. He has been a lot of things, wear a lot of hats, and did a lot of great work in Guyana. And I'm going to try to get some wisdom from him tonight so our youths can know where we came from. Tell us about your early education, though. I know you said you went and did your common entrance, and then you went to a secondary school, well,
Yeah,
a school below Queen's College. And
yeah,
what happens
yeah.
there?
I went to Saints, and it was fun. One of the things that I always tell people, and it's something that I can share even with my own children. Before I said common entrance, when I was at St. Winifred, I, I never came below fifth place. They used to give you what space you come. I,
Yeah,
I never came below fifth place, and I thought life was easy. This is how it was going to be. And then I got the Saints, and I always tell people when I got the Saints, the first term I got the Saints, I came in 24th out of like 31, and I couldn't believe it. I thought something was wrong. But what that did to me, it made me recognize that it takes effort. Everything you do takes effort. Nothing is easy. You think you can cruise, and then you run into a situation where you got to make the effort. And that can make you or break you, right? Because you can withdraw and said, I'm not good enough, or you can decide to make the effort. And 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 that lesson, because I went through that transition, I recognize even in my children, one of them in particular, who was my second daughter, who is, I think, is extremely bright. And I don't think she knew her qualities. And she thought life was going to be easy. She's one of them who went to, in New York, she went to Bronx School of Science. She
oh,
cruised through the regular high school, and then she got to Brown School of Science, and then she realized you got to make an effort to maintain a certain level.
GPA, yeah.
Yeah, and I watched her, and I recognized she started to rebel. She started to get into all kinds of trouble, and I recognized it immediately. I recognized it because I went through it. I went through the same thing. So I was able to kind of steady her, to let her know, don't fall by the wayside. This will pass. You got to put in the effort. And so from my experience, I learned how to deal with her because of that situation that she went in. And everything you do takes effort. After high school, I actually started at GTI, at Institute. And I kind of stumbled into land surveying. Land surveying was not something I wanted to do. I actually wanted to do what you call naval piloting. Those guys who go out and bring the big ships in and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason I wanted to do that was pretty simple. I had an uncle who was, used to call him a stevedore, those guys who used to unload the ship.
Right. They actually
And
had a whole scheme for them there. Steve
yeah,
Jobs' scheme.
yeah, the
Yeah.
stevedore scheme. He was a stevedore. And when those big ships come in with the expatriates and so on, they would get stuff that we wouldn't normally get, like your Cadbury's chocolate and a lot of stuff. And I thought, man, if I can get into this pilot thing to bring the ships in, that would be neat. I can get a lot of get a lot of prags. But the course for that was filled. And one of them that was open was land surveying. And so I applied for land surveying, and the land surveying job is top heavy with math. Fortunately, I had gotten my math GC and all of that, so I had the requirements to get into that. And I got into the land surveying course. And that course started in September. And in January or February the next year, they actually take us out on a field trip. We were somewhere out on the Soesdijk Linden Highway, and they threw us in the bush there, and we had
Okay.
to build our own tent and our own camp and everything. And we're there, and mosquito is killing you and so on, and
Sunfly too.
yeah, everything that you can think of, and they just loosed us in there for like 3 months, and I remember thinking, I, I like this job, right? You're
Wow.
lying there in your hammock, and one of the reasons I liked it is because I recognized it. I had told my mom years before that I never wanted to work in an office environment. I like being out in the field, and so I recognize that this is something I can get used to, and I like building the tent in your hammock out there, and you're sleeping out there for
The
and
adventurous life. I hear it coming.
and I like that. So from the first year, and the course was a 3-year course, right? So um, I went through that course, and it was a brutal course. Right? It was hard, academically and physically, but I liked it. And one of the reasons I liked it, I recognized that when you're out there as a surveyor, you're on your own. You don't have a boss looking down your neck all the time with what you do. And once your reports are valid and you're getting the work done, and they will know if you're getting the work done, you're on your own. It's just you and your men out there, right? And so I took the surveying, like you say, like a Dr. Waterman. I like that stuff. And it afforded me the privilege. I saw Guyana throughout the country, and I got paid for doing it too, right?
Yeah.
And,
All the
and
interim areas.
yeah, oh yeah, I worked from the Northwest District, Pomeroon River, all the way to Crabwood Creek, along the coast and so on. And it's just you and your men in there, and we didn't behave all the time because we were usually well paid, and when we were well paid, we went into some of those villages, and we were not always on our best behavior.
Mischievously, I understand. I will pass on that, Sammy. I will pass on that.
We
I
passed
understand. I
through that.
relate. Yeah, yeah. But I got some ex-police coming in. Good night to you, my buddy. Everton Pole, man. Ex-cops, man. A lot of folks want to hear your story, Sammy. So please, let me take you back, way back. So there must have been a teacher that that inspired you, influential, and for that 3 years of your training.
Yes, there was, and one of them that I can remember, and I can call his name. He recently passed away in Atlanta. A guy by the name of Mr. Fred Pollard. He lived on David Street, and Fred Pollard was one of my lecturers at the institute. And I remember the first time I went in the field with him. He came. He had this little Austin of England, a little roll car, and he had a case of beer in the back of the car. And he told us straight up, if you're a surveyor, you got to learn how to drink, right? I mean, we're an institute. But Mr. Pollard was a good mentor to me. He kind of showed me the ropes. And when I was finished, I worked with him at Lands and Mines. Lands and Mines used to be under the Victoria Law Court on there next to the Deeds Registry. And Mr.
Okay.
Pollard worked there. And I worked there for 2 years before I went over to the Ministry of Works. But while I was there, Mr. Pollard resigned. He retired, and he went into the National Service. They were now starting to build Campbellville, laying out the cotton fields. And I remember went up there to Campbellville with Mr. Pollard to lay out the fields and so on. That was a remarkable trip because, I mean, we were running our truck over the savannah and watching it. Antitas running, big, large Antitas running there and so on, laying out
wild meat.
It was quite remarkable. Yeah. I remember we running.
Would loves to see that. I mean, he loved a lot of wild meat.
Oh yeah, we ran it down with a truck.
Oh,
You know, hit it and so
man.
on. You know, and actually, Mr. Pollard, he when I was in Atlanta, when I moved to Atlanta, he was living there, right? So I met up with him again there in Atlanta, and that's where he passed away, right? So Mr. Pollard and I got a long history, right?
Wow. That is awesome. And you remember these things. That's awesome. Good retainance. What do you think contributes to your retainance, though, Sam? You remembering all of these things.
Well, they were good memories. And usually we remember the things that influence. We remember the people who influenced us, and so on. And we remember the good and the bad. Um,
Okay.
it's just a question of how we deal with it. Sometimes you have to just leave the bad and learn from it. As I told you, the thing with going to school when I first went with my daughter, all of us run through adversities, and it's not the adversity; it's how we deal with it that matters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I some of the things that I've gone through, I I kind of apply them to my own children, and one of the things that I try to do differently, um, we turn into our parents. We learn a lot from our parents because they don't teach us like school. We just observe and we learn from them. And not everything we learn from our parents is good for us. Um, for example, one of the things in our household, and I can understand why it was done that way. Um, my dad, I told you, ran a tight ship, and there was no back chat. You don't question your dad. If your dad tells you something,
Do
you
as I
just
say.
yeah, and that's the thing. Um, because of some of the people I met at St. Stanislaus College, and a lot of them were socially above where I was. You know, we that school had a lot of people from the diplomatic corps and a lot of expatriate went there and so on.
Well-to-do people I see.
Very,
Doctors'
very
kids and
yeah, very well-to-do people, business elite in Guyana and stuff like that. And and I observed certain things, and one of the things I observed is a lot of their children were allowed to question them. They asked, well, Dad, why did you do that, or why did you say that? And I recognized that that was a healthy endeavor, and I endeavored. One of the things I endeavored to do, and I think I practice it, I told my children, regardless of the situation, and it's very appropriate that we are bringing this up now on for Father's Day. I want my children, any issue that they have, I don't want them to be scared to come to me with anything that you have, right? Even if you think I'll be annoyed at it, come to me first before you go to anybody else. And I think it worked for me. I have two daughters and one son. And of course, I'm very close to my son in particular. Um, and my son would just call me up and say, "Hey, Pops, I just want to run this by you." And and for me, that is one of the best feelings in the world. I I have to mention this. A couple of years ago, my son was uh, he had an assignment. He was sent to Shanghai in China, and as he was there, I got an opportunity to go to China with him. Spent about 2 weeks there. I can tell you right now, that was probably the best 2 weeks of my life. I mean, we just hung out, we talked, we we took a train from Shanghai to Beijing, one of those high-speed trains that go like that's my boy right there. One of those high-speed trains that go like 200 miles an hour or whatever it was. We just hung out. We went up on the Great Wall of China and so on. It was memorable. it's one of those things that you don't forget ever. You go to your grave when you think about it, right? Just just hanging out, just being, you know. And the other thing I would urge the fathers in the group, I was accustomed to whenever my children have an issue, they would come to dad. I I solved everything, right? And and I always mention this to people that I know, because things change. My son did his undergraduate degree from Georgia Tech. And I remember when he was in his sophomore year, I was home and I got a call from him. And he said, Dad, I got a problem. Let me run this by you. That's what he usually said. And I remember my son talking to me about some problem. It was something to do with microeconomics or something like that. And as he's telling me this, the first thing that came to my mind was, why isn't he speaking in English? I don't understand a word that he's saying. I recognized immediately that he had bypassed my level of education. He had gone beyond me. And what he was asking me about, I had no idea what he was talking about. So I pulled the old dad thing. I said, son, let me get back to you on this one. I never got back to him on it. I don't know how he solved that problem. I know it had nothing to do with me. But what that did for me, it made me recognize that my son had bypassed me in certain areas. And when I thought about it, I remember thinking, but that is exactly what I wanted. Wherever I am, socially, financially, academically,
They must do better.
I want my children to go one step better. And I recognized that. And I didn't resent it at all. I thought that is exactly what I wanted. And so the relationship with my children now, and it took a while, is more friendship than anything else. We're friends. They can come to me with anything. You don't have to be scared to come to me about anything at all. Bring it to me and we'll deal with it, as peers.
Yeah, yeah. I'm speaking to Mr. Sammy Langevine. Wore many, many hats, and this is my special edition for Father's Day. And I want to say Happy Father's Day in advance to the fellows here with us tonight. Sammy, more of you, man, more of you. You was in the interior. You saw animals. You saw snake, tigers. Why are you not fearful of these things, Sammy?
Well, I thought I would be, but this is the other thing I want to bring that is important to me. I got qualified as a land surveyor in Guyana. I think it was in 1977. It was sometime in the 70s. And so you're sending me out in the field now as a young surveyor, and my crew, they're like the people I'm supervising are my dad's age. And I was always taught to respect your elders and all of that. And I got these guys who calling me skipper and boss and so on. And I remember one of my first trips, I had to make up the timesheet and everything for them. And I made it up wrong. And so I was salaried. So my salary, my wife was drawing my salary, but they're depending on their timesheet.
Right, right.
And the timesheet is wrong. And those guys who I'm supposed to be supervising, and I can tell you this now honestly, I learned the job from those guys who I'm supervising, right? Those guys taught me the
practical side of it.
The job, which I did. I had the book sense. I mean, I was qualified and everything, but I didn't know the job. And most of what I learned in a practical sense, I learned from the guys who were working for me, right? And that was very important. I recognized that very early. And let me jump ahead a little bit more. When I came up to the States, I was working in New York, and I came up here in winter. And you know, New York, it doesn't stop for anything. I'm doing surveying in winter, and it's snow on the ground. And I'm looking for the biggest coat because I'm cold, snot in your nose and everything. And I was working with a young man from Maine, and those guys used to go hunting in winter and all that kind of stuff. And I remember him telling me, he said, Sam, don't look for the biggest coat. Dress in layers. Keep clothes in your bag. He said, the way you get cold is when your sweat freezes. He said, as it gets warmer, you take off clothes. And when it gets colder, you put on more coat. Dress in. I had to learn that stuff from
several T-shirts. Yeah. Thermal underwear and all that stuff.
Your thermal underwear and stuff like that. Dress in layers. So imagine me coming from a climate that is hot and now to doing surveying in New York. And some of them guys who I worked with, they still laugh at me because one of the things that I ran into when I came to New York in winter, I asked them, I said, what's the matter here? Why are all these trees dead? Because they didn't have no leaves on them and so on. I'd never seen trees without leaves and that kind of stuff. They still laugh at me about that now, right? Telling me about
culture shock. The leaves fall off before the snow.
But I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those guys, right?
But I want to remind you that you were a surveyor supervisor, and so you had 25 men working with you. Was anyone a huntsman? Did anyone carry a firearm?
Yes.
Was anybody cooking for you? What was it like there in the interior?
As the officer, normally it's a surveyor, and under me it's a technician. Those are the two officers, and the rest are crew. And normally we split it up in two crews. But as the surveyor, you're responsible for the technician. Whatever he does, you assign him to his work, and you go with your work. And so you work in parallel. And in those days, we had a cut line. So you got line cutters, you got guys who can handle the instrument, and we got the pad and operating the instrument. And the other thing about that part of it, which is so different now, the technology is so far advanced. When we would come home from the field, we would have to go in camp under the gas lamp and do our drafting or drawings and so on at night when we got into camp there. These days, everything is electronic. You can just, data collector, which collects everything. It's a whole different technology.
Digital, that was analog days. Now we have the digital days. Right? So you have the AutoCAD and all that stuff going on. Yeah. But then you also had a man with a gun. Was he a hunter?
He had a huntsman. That was his full-time job. He would go, and sometimes we wouldn't see him for a week. He would go.
Wow.
And I remember in the Pomeroon River in particular, my huntsman, his family had a farm in the river. And he would go, and on the weekends when he come out, he would come out with several bags with edos and cassava and so on. He would just bring from the farm. And then he would go and he would shoot whatever animals he shot and so on. So we got out of town allowance. And that out of town allowance was supposed to be, buy food and stuff like that. We didn't have to buy food because he just keep bringing food all the time, right? And he would shoot game and come back, and he would go there, spend 2 days and come. We had a huntsman, and I had a camp attendant. The camp attendant, that is your man. In fact, my camp attendant was a guy from the street in Newtown who I know. I took him out in the field with me, and and he worked with me for years. And he he was my he was my camp attendant. He was my bodyguard. He was everything because as I told you, we can get a little raucous when we imbibe it out there in the field and so on. And
Yeah,
he would look
especially
out
when
for.
you get the paiwari and the other stuff that is made
I,
there
I thought we were
locally.
not supposed to talk about that.
But listen, Sammy, listen, it's got to be more than the money that these guys stay with you for so many years. What do you think are some of the soft skills that you applied there with your employees that made them stay with you so many years?
Well, I think I learned that from my dad and some of the family around me. Um, I had some other officers, some other surveyors around me, and I remember I would come home on the weekends, and there was another guy in particular who he wouldn't fraternize at all with his crew. He would wait for me to come, and he would say, let's go have a drink with us. I I was never like that. I I had a closer bond, a closer relationship with my crew. Um, I, as I said, I had a camp attendant who would cook for me. I would come home and my meals were there. The men had to cook for themselves. But once every month, I would cook for my whole crew, and I would buy a drink for them and so on. I
Awesome.
did. And you asked the question why some. As a matter of fact, I not too long came back from Guyana, and one of the guys who worked with me, he heard I was in town and he came to see me. He was an ex soldier too, and and I remember him because we used to call him British. He was very precise in his language and everything, and they would be paid every 2 weeks, every fortnight. And 11 days of that 14, he is the best worker it has. When he got paid, you can't control him. He's just wild. I used to have to send guys out to look for him because he would be lying drunk at the side of the road somewhere. And and when they bring him in, how many times I remember him sitting on my bed and saying, Skipper, I don't know if he had problems at home or whatever. He would say, he would tell me about the vicissitudes of life and so on and all that kind of stuff. And you would say, all right. And I kept him for years in spite of that, what he went through. And and he stayed loyal for me. A few years ago, I went to Guyana and I was staying on Camp Street. And I remember that guy walked from Sophia with a trush of coconut, a whole trush of coconut, walked from Sophia. And I think I felt good about that and not so good. I think it was because of the way I treated him. And a funny thing happened a few years ago. He ran into my younger brother who lives there, who still lives in Guyana. And he came up to him and he said, Boy, you're a Langevine. I guess he recognized the facial features. And he said, Yeah, who is Sam to you? He said, Sam is my big brother and so on. He said, Man, I want to get in touch with him and so on. And he told him how he used to work for me and everything. And it's funny how things pass down. I have reaped the benefits of some of the stuff that my dad did.
Right.
Um, that guy met with my brother, and my brother he is part of the Lions Club in Guyana. And the Lions have a medical situation that they do, and
Supporting people.
he hooked up
Okay.
with my brother. And so all his medication and his medical things and so on that he's got to go through, my brother got him now there with
Okay.
everything. Just things just passed on. So
Oh,
to
that is
answer the
awesome.
question that you asked before, that that kind of softer attitude, it's an art more than a science.
Okay.
I have worked with people who you can sit there and you can give them instructions and say, man, go do this, 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 and so on. And they would go do it as you ask. And there are others who you have to almost tell them everything to do. It's not that they're lazy, but they're different personalities.
Structured, kind
It's up
of.
to you to figure it out. You have to
Right.
figure out who is who, and you have to be flexible in dealing with people. You can't deal with everyone the same way. That's on you. You have to figure out how to deal, with the people that you're managing. It's an issue of management.
So an issue of leadership and of empathy
Yes, yes,
and
that's
of,
true.
of
Right.
emotional intelligence, all the soft skills, we can mention them all here.
It is.
Critical thinking and adaptability and all that stuff. And so where did you learn that? Did you learn that in college, or where did you learn
No,
those soft skills?
not really. I learned that from just observation, right? You learn that from watching people, and you grasp this and you leave this alone. And I'll tell you, let me move on a little bit from the surveying part, because the surveying tells on you physically after a while. And as you get older, you don't want to be going through that. And that's when I switched to project management. And I worked with some cell phone companies. We built cell phone towers, those towers that make your cell phones work and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did that in the whole of the Southeast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and the Northeast, right? From Massachusetts, coming all the way down New York, New Jersey, and Maryland into DC area. And one of the things that happened was a lot of the guys who worked with me here, especially in the South, were white Southerners, and they have a different culture and so on. And so you have to learn that. So those soft skills came in very useful. The same way that I told you I operated with the surveying, the same way I had to deal with some of them, because a lot of them, the culture, they are not inclined to take any instructions from a black guy, especially a
Who are
black
you?
foreign, right?
Yeah.
And so you understand some of the things you have to go through. You have to feel, and you know who is who. And my role was management. I've never climbed a tower, but what I do is I know the drawings, and I know when them guys go up there, they got to take photographs, and I want to see detailed photographs, and I know what's happening topside. You also have to be very careful, especially if you're going to have a guy climbing 250 feet. If he falls from there, he's going to die. No doubt about it. So a lot of those
Safety
guys,
first.
yeah, safety first all the time. And a lot of those guys are ex-military and so on, and they're reckless. They would come to the job, and you walk around them and you talk to them, and you know who smoke or who drink and so on, and you just tell them go home, because you don't want to be responsible for somebody falling 250 feet. There's no survival in that. And
I
so
understand.
I have learned that you know deal with people in a straight manner. One of the things that they laugh at, I still remember someone of them did some stupid thing. And what happens when I get annoyed is I go back to the vernacular. My old Guyanese thing come out and so on. And I remember sitting on the side there, and somebody did something stupid, and I'm ranting and raving, and I recognize immediately that the whole site is quiet. And I heard somebody say, "What did he say? What did he say? What is he saying?" Because they couldn't understand me. I had gone into my language. And I heard one of them say, I don't know, but I know he's mad. And and that brought me back down, because I recognized they don't even understand what I'm saying. I went back into the
Right,
middle schooler, right?
right. It seemed like you were out of character, you know.
Yeah, well, sometimes you lose it. It's a construction site.
Right,
What can I tell you?
of course, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, but I want you to go back into the interior for a little bit before I forget to remember to ask you,
Mm.
what is your description of Guyana's interior in a one word or a sentence?
Wonderful. And it always amazes me that more than half or three-quarter of the population of Guyana have never seen the best of Guyana. When you go into the interior there and you stay there for a while, just the peacefulness, the quietness, the animals and so on, it's just amazing that people have once in my whole experience in Guyana, one of my guys, and this was I think in the Maikoni River, he was going over like a stump and he got bit on his ankle. We used to wear those bush clarks, those
Oh
brown you had
yeah,
to,
oh yeah. Mm.
and,
Throw dragons and stuff.
yes. You can see where the fangs went in, right? The two. Normally we go with a snake bite kit. We got a little cutter to suction out whatever poison and so on. But we were bringing him out to the river there was a Myconic cottage hospital there. And it's hard when you see a grown, you can see his foot or his leg already starting to swell with the poison and so on as we bringing him out and so on. And clearly he's in pain, right? And we got him to the hospital and so on. But that's the only time that I saw, right, someone who was actually bit by a snake in his ankle. There was a guy I used to work with at Lanza Mines who had a big scar on his face here, and he told me he got bit by what is called a parrot snake, which is a green snake, and it kind of hangs from
Dropped
the
down from the
tree.
tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people who get hit mostly get hit in the face because that's where it hit. And
Ah,
in the Pomeroon River, I was doing some drainage work in there, and I remember looking through in my instrument, and one of my men is taking some shots across a canal, and I saw him drop the rod and start to run and jump in the boat, which was moored. And apparently he got a little close to it was an alligator nest or something. And the alligator just came out and started chasing him, and he jumped in the
wow,
boat and so on. But
man.
but those are things. It comes with the territory, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had my experience too, Sammy, because my father used to cut the Wallaby post and make the parents stay for the
Uh-huh.
post there. So I
Yeah,
had to go in there on vacation time, and my siblings and I used to go in there. When you wake in the morning, you see the footprint of tiger in the yard because you
yeah,
sweep the yard in the
yeah,
afternoon. In the mornings, you see the footprints of the animals. And one thing I remember well, Sammy, my sister, back in those days, you take the rice bag and you make the hammocks or the beds,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
you have like a layer one above the other, and you have a space underneath, right?
yeah,
That you could either store your sheets or whatever. But I remember
yeah,
that well. My sister was on the bed and something was moving under her.
yeah.
And when we did check, was a big old snake in that space, in that hammock, in that bed, that rice bag bed, man. And
They're
we
looking
had to
for
get.
warmth. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're looking for warmth. And but look, throughout my experiences, Guyana, I mean, we talk about all the animals and the snakes and so on. The biggest problem for me was mosquitoes, man.
Okay.
Look,
Sandfly and mosquitoes.
let me tell you something. I had when I first went to the Pomeroon River, I had one of those, those folding cots with a canvas bottom, and I got bit through that canvas, and I never would have thought that a mosquito could bite you through.
Mosquito got through that canvas.
Yeah,
Wow.
through that canvas, right? And That was the biggest problem. I had a job to do in, they used to call it the Five Sluice Canal up on the East Bank Road when you're going up to the airport, in the conservancy back there. And I had my men go in there to build the camp and so on. And I was coming in the next day. When I pulled up to the canal, because they came out with a boat to the East Bank Road, my camp attendant say, "Hey, Skipper, you got a net?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, go back out and get one because it's cruel in here," right? In that conservancy there, in there, we were like about 2 miles or so on in the conservancy from the Five
Okay.
Sluice gate.
Right. So back in those days, you use your net plus mosquito coil. Plus, you
Yeah.
have to smoke out the place too.
Well, we had smoke, and we always camped near the water because that was everything. You get your water, you cook with that same water from the conservancy. And with all excuse to the ladies, from my thing, you had a bamboo. You're not coming out to that hammock to go to the bathroom. You just get a
Everything,
little
everything
bamboo.
is right there.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
word!
right there.
What an
The biggest
experience! What
problem.
a
That was the biggest problem.
wow!
Mosquitoes, right?
And they suck your blood too, though. They carry like a pint
Oh
of
yeah.
blood when they
And
hold on you.
and some of them can be dangerous, right? Some of them carry dengue and
The
all kinds.
malaria,
Yeah,
right?
but you don't know what is what. Um, to jump back to Georgia, I did a job when I was project manager. No, I was doing surveying then, and we did a job at a place called Bartlett Ferry. It was on the Georgia-Alabama border, and it was a hydroelectric dam for Georgia Power. And we were in there, and in the summer when my son in particular was home from school, he would come out and he would work with me, to give him a little something. And I remember us working there, and we can look on the ground. And I always tell him, when you go to tie your pants over your sock and put duct tape, because you can look on the ground and see ticks, right? You can see them crawling, right? And
Wow.
I remember my son telling me, "Dad, I can tell you right now, I'm not doing this job."
This is not for me at all.
Yeah, he,
He was
he already
traumatized, man.
he already decided this is not true. I don't care what you do, I ain't doing this, right?
And it's a good place for us to segue into because I deal with high school students, and a lot of kids would say they want to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, and these things. You don't hear anyone talking about being surveyors or being naval pilots. Why is
Mm.
that so, Sammy? Why we
It's
don't
not
hear about these types of jobs?
it's not sexy. When I started surveying in Guyana, right? Um, we, as I said, we were well paid as a surveyor in Guyana, but we didn't wear short jacks. We didn't show up looking, like a sweet boy there. When you see surveyors come out of the bush, we come out with, boots and stuff. We got money, but we didn't look too good, right? You know, and human beings are funny. You go for the flash, you go for the sexy thing, you go for the guys. You know, I I I never had a motorcycle or anything in Guyana because usually I always had a ministry Land Rover and a driver with me. So somebody always driving me around in their own vehicle. I never really had anything like this. So a lot of people don't know what it is.
Of these job
Yeah.
positions. Yeah.
I didn't know what it was until I really start to find out, from people. And that was the other thing. In Guyana, it's a cultural thing too. A lot of the old surveyors were a lot of Indian guys and Chinese and so on. They were most of the guys who were in that department. You had, a few black guys who were in there and so on, but it wasn't a role that a lot of us got into. And as I
Couldn't
told you, I
afford.
got into it kind of by mistake.
Okay. Oh, 'cause was it because we couldn't afford to get these training? What you think would have been the
No,
reason?
it was you didn't know. I was at a meeting, and I think the prime minister then, Forbes Burnham, came to it, and he told us. He said, "Look, the way we are going, we're going to need these kinds of skills. We're going to need surveyors. We're going to need this. We got to open up the interior and all of that." And I listened to him, and I thought, this might be fun. And like I said, it was something that I was qualified for. It's heavy on math. If you don't like math, you're not going to get into surveying a lot. It's a lot of math and a lot of stuff like that. It's the more modern thing now is when I got to Atlanta, I remember my boss telling me, he said, "Sam, there are a lot of guys here coming out of college who are way more qualified than you are." He said, "One of the reasons I hired you is because if you go out there and you run out of battery, you would know how to go from force principles because that's how we learn." I remember when I saw my force HP calculator, it was like magic. We had to do everything with a seven-figure logbook, from force principles. So if I run out the battery in the field, I can sit down there and I can calculate it because that's how I was trained, in the first
Yeah.
place. Those guys are trained from everything is electronic, right? And so,
The digital age, the
yeah,
robots and all the drones and stuff
yeah,
like that.
everything that they got, it's different. I had to learn the new technical stuff. It was new to me. I had to learn that as I went along here. And so to answer your question, a lot of people didn't know, and they didn't know how much it paid to, because it paid well. I can tell you that. Right?
Wow.
But
Wow.
nobody know. You wouldn't do it if you don't
Nobody
know.
knows. So you think there ought to be some more education on trade skills?
There should be, and that's why I'm glad you give me these opportunity to talk about these things, because if you don't know, now you know, right? Those are jobs, those are skill jobs, and artificial intelligence is not going to take that away. You got to go on the ground to do it. You got to be on the ground. Somebody got to be out there doing it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they're doing now with drones and robotic instruments and stuff like that, but somebody got to be out there working it, right? That's just the way
So
it
in
is.
this, well, in Maryland here, we are trying to make our youths in school decide on the career pathway at grade eighth grade, and the government is spending a lot of money for them to decide. Some kids are still undecided because
Yeah,
some kids are in certain schools because the parents force them to go in certain school environment. They're not interested in the career part. They just want to go finish school. And so
yeah.
we have to work on that undecided mindset. And so, because who's going to build our bridges, our roads? Who's going to
Well,
go into the interior? Who's going to be our surveyors?
well, I'll tell you something, and I'm glad you brought up the Maryland. As I told you, I transitioned from surveying to project management with cell phone towers. Now, in urban areas like Washington, D.C., they don't build towers. They put the antennas normally on rooftops, high
Okay.
buildings, specifically. And I remember doing a job on top of the Veterans Administration building in DC. We had to put some antennas up there. The technical part of the job is not the hard part of it. The hard part of it is just the logistics. Before you go up on the veterans building, everybody got to have your whole crew. You got to have your social security. You got to be vetted, your background check, all of that. And then when you go in there, parking in DC, what it's like. You
Yeah.
got to arrange for parking, special parking, and all of that.
Otherwise, you get towed away.
You in a heartbeat, and DC it's a big fines and so on. But even when you go in, you first got to check with Veterans Administration security, because remember we're going to the roof. The White House is just next door, opposite. Security at the Veterans Administration got to contact security at the White House to tell them, look, I'm sending 4 men up to the roof. And when you tell them you're sending 4 men, they don't want to see
It's got to
5.
be 4. That's
It
right.
will be 4. It's just the logistics of the thing that is so hard. The technical part of it is the easy part. So you go up there and you do what you got to do. And so for us to set those antennas up on any roof, you actually have to rent space. It's like an apartment building. You rent a space to put your antennas. And normally we got our equipment down in the basement where we run the cables down to. You got to rent space in there too. It's like an apartment you're renting, right?
Wow.
And so that's the hard part of working in urban areas. It's different, like New York and Boston and so on. Just the logistics is different.
Wow. But Sammy, you must have some kind of advice to young people entering surveying and engineering field. What would be your advice to our young people?
Like any other job, it's a job, and you have to be diligent about it. One of the things about the engineering field is you can't bluff your way into it. If you build a bad bridge, it is going to collapse. Everybody is going to know. And so it's a situation where you have to be very meticulous and very careful about what you do, and stuff like that. And it's about mentoring. One of the biggest things that I've got, and this is a difference from when we were growing up. A lot of our parents, when they scolded you, how many times you hear, boy, you can't do that, don't do that. It's always the negative part. Never tell children not to do something. Let them do it and make a mistake. Don't tell children what they can't do. Tell them they can do it. Tell them they can do anything, right? And if you tell them that they can do anything, they probably will do anything. It's up to us. It's the guidance that we have to give our children, right? Don't discourage them from doing something. Encourage them to do it, even if they do it wrong. That gives you a chance to correct them and show them how to do it right.
Awesome, awesome,
That's how you change things.
awesome. Speaking to Sammy Langevine, and he raised children, 2 girls and 1 boy. What values did you intentionally teach your children, Sammy?
The same thing that I was telling you, do anything that you want to. After a while, I never, I've never told my children what to do. I find out what they want to do, and then I can facilitate them to do that. Um, they have to find their path. Your job as a parent is guidance. When they want to do that and they stumble, your job is to pick them up, spin them around, and say, "Go get it again."
Yeah.
That's parenting. That's basically our only job, to encourage them to do the things that they want to do. Right?
Mm. And what were some of the challenges of raising children while balancing career demands? I know you probably wasn't at home all the time.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Um, I have always, and my children even now would tell you, I want to know wherever you are at all times. If you tell me that you're going to your friend, okay, that's fine. Who is the friend? Give me a phone number. If you're moving from that friend, going to another friend, Dad, I'm leaving here and going there. You have to have that kind of control at a certain time. And yet, that's why I'm telling you it's an art more than a science. You have to feel, you have to give your children. I'll give you this. My youngest kid, my son, is now 40 something. When we were living in New York, in an apartment, we lived in Flushing, Queens. He had a tendency to take metal like a nail and stick it in the socket, the electrical socket. You know how many times I told him not to do that? And he persists in doing it. And a day I'm sitting down, I'm from work and I'm sitting down reading the newspaper and I'm watching him and he's got this nail and I see he's going to it. And I decided, look, this is the day he'll learn. I'm not going to let him get electrocuted, but it got to. And he's looking at me. He's looking to see if I'm looking at him. And he stuck the nail in the socket. And he jumped back. I went over and I took the nail from him and I said, you know, I told you not to do that. I ain't spank him or anything. I just calmly did that. You know, about several years ago, I was in Atlanta and I asked him, I said, you remember that time when you put the nail in his said, Dad, if I remember, I can tell you exactly where it was. Never did that again.
Well,
Like tough love.
man. Sammy, I think Abiola Harlequin is looking at my notes. For some reason, she's asking some of the same questions I have in mind to ask you. Like she's asking, what is one piece of advice your dad gave you that you still follow? I think you touched on telling lies. What was that? The only one?
Yeah. No, it's not the only one. Is, as I mentioned before, pick your friends carefully.
Okay.
Be very conscious of your friends. As I told you before, mourning and how they break no bones.
Both of those, yeah.
They got some friends you have to love them from afar, you know. Hey man, hey Johnny, see you man, and keep moving because some people are just trouble, and it's up to you. You have to figure out who is who. I can't help you with that. You have to figure that out, right? Because you know, like Maya Angelou said, people will show you who they are, and when they do, believe them. Sometimes we make excuses for people and say, oh, no, he's really a nice guy. He's just going through a bad thing. No, he's not really a nice guy. Right? You know.
Man, I think she peeping my my question. I got my buddy here, Natram Monilal, man. We work together, CID breakdown. Hello, Natram, long time no see. Stokely, did you tell Natram to come on? Thank you so much if you did. Dr. Desi the Plummet is on with us. She's saying, great evening. Yes, values build strong character. She talking about some core values, man, that you talked about early. Yeah, values build strong character. We talked a lot about that. Stokely saying, great, good work. My brother, he's giving me some props to that, what I'm doing. Everton Paul, good night to you. Shelly Ann McKen is in, and my neighbor, Jillian Bailey, Vive House. Good night to you, my folks in West Coast of East. And Shelly saying, never too late. Good night to you, my schoolmate, Sharon Montpellier Green. She's saying blessings to all. Sammy, you could tell them good night too. And Sharon is saying self-control was one of the things that, but that's a fruit of the spirit, you know, biblical self-control. We're not going to go there, the fruit of the spirit, but those are some of the soft skills you have to apply dealing with some people who are aggressive and all the other.
It is, and like I said, a lot of it is one of the things I've discovered is when you run into people who, you might do something and some people will just flare up. I think to remember is it's really not your problem. It's theirs. Yeah. People will take out their issue on you for their issue. And once you understand that, it's it's not a problem to walk away from stuff. Sometimes we're left unguarded and react instead of responding, right?
Yeah.
And we got to be careful with that difference. People aggravate you, and you fly off the handle too, and you make a bad situation worse. And so that's one of the things we got to be very careful, especially when we're dealing with children. Children observe us more than we think. You know, it's not what you tell children. They're watching your every move all the time. And as I said, we we imitate our parents. We become our parents. And some of the things that we learn from our parents, we should just give it up, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not everything you learn from your parents is valuable. We learn good and we learn bad, and we have to know how to separate the two.
Especially when you become an adult and you get good
Especially
education.
Yes.
Yeah. I got some people coming on in. Leslie Ward, good night to you. Now, Sammy, one of the things I know you talked about your children. You're very proud of your children. I can see it in your smile. You know, and that's a good thing. But was there a time that something that they did made you most proud?
When my son graduated from Georgia Tech, his scarf, and I still have it here in my closet. He wrote on it, you know, Dad, I know the things. By the way, my son, I worked, when I left Guyana, I took up a job building roads in Trinidad for 4 years. So
Okay.
my son was born in Trinidad. He left when he was a year old.
So he's a Trini to the bone. Okay.
Well, not to the bone, because he left when he was 1 year old, right?
Oh, okay.
When he came up to New York. But I remember when he graduated from Tech, he wrote on his scarf, Dad, I know you didn't tell me everything, but I understand the efforts that you and Mom made to get me to this place here now.
Wow.
And he wrote it on a marquee. Right? It still makes me emotional whenever occasionally I go into the closet and I take it down and I look at it and so on. He wrote that. They understand. They're seeing everything that you
sacrifices you made.
Yes, they know that, and I don't know. I had no idea that they're observing all of that. You know, you just do what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
But that one was particularly poignant to me, right? When he did that, right? You know, I'm proud of them all, right?
Now, Sammy, I want you to go deep because some of my friends lost their loved one, lost their kids, lost their children tragically and suddenly. Was there a time that you felt extremely sad of a situation involving your children?
Not me personally. I have a friend, and I'm not gonna call the name because some of you might know his name. My ex-wife, we had a daycare in Atlanta, and one of the kids that we used to take care of, he always was very quiet and so on, and he very reclusive. Recently, in the past year or two, he committed suicide, and it pained me because he grew up with my son. And I remember my son coming to me and said, Dad, you know, like, is there anything that I could have done? Maybe if I had contacted him a little bit more, talked to him a bit more and so on. He was very concerned because he kind of like took it on himself that he felt if it was something that he could have done. And I had to reassure him that, son, things happen. Things just happen. And I felt it because this is somebody that I knew as a kid, right? And one of the reasons I'm happy that we're having this discussion here is keep talking to your kids. right? Just build that bridge. You don't know when they're going to tell you something that's like so that you need to know. Um, if you see them quiet, you talk, you interact with them because there's a lot going on that they're not telling you. It's up to you as a parent to draw it out to them, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard. If they're aloof or they're standing off, you don't just leave them to themselves. You engage. But that's not only with your kids. That's with anybody. I have some of my siblings who would never pick up the phone and call me, right? Um, Not because of anything. That's just their personality. They don't do that. So I call, and people tell me, what, why are you always calling? Why are you always the one? You know what? I call because they don't.
Right.
I
You and I
call,
got that in common. Yeah.
you got to touch base. You have to connect with people, even if they don't want to connect with you. That people are going through a lot of stuff in these times. I'm telling you, and some people are. One of the things I live in a right now. I live in a 55 and over retirement community, and
Gated, lovely community over there, pool
it
and
is nice.
golf
And
course and all manner of stuff. Let me tell you,
there's
folks,
you know,
nice.
there's a lot of activities going on and stuff like that, and I recognize that one of the things that I've been on a public relations committee. We have a, a a group here, and I'm on the public relations committee. And one of my assignments, the committee chairperson is a woman, and she has not been making a lot of headway in, you know, we kind of do profiles of people in our community. She's not been making a lot of headway with the men. So she asked me to join her committee. And my assignment is to pick anybody that I want to and profile them, write the profile on them so that we can publish it and so on. And I realized this people are willing to talk if you're willing to listen, you know. You have to reach out, you have to
Some
engage.
people listen to respond, not
Yes,
to, you know.
yes, yes. Just so I show up with them and I talk and I say, all right, I got a tape recorder, just like what we're doing here now. Tell me about yourself, what it is, and once you get people talking, you'd be surprised at the amount of things that they'll tell you, right? Just listen, right?
Active listening is so
Yeah,
important. It's
yeah,
one of the soft skills.
yeah. It is. Yeah.
And so empathy also, you apply empathy because how do you make someone speak about themselves? Like Dale Carnegie talked about in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. How do you do that? First,
Yeah.
you have to apply empathy. Are you concerned about this person's well-being, their profile? Are you really concerned? Or you
Well,
just write an article?
well. This might when I was a young surveyor, one of the foremen that I had, right? He was an older guy, dad. And he told me, he was kind of a drunk, right? He said, Skipper, let me tell you something. You want to drink all night? You show up and you buy the first drink. Right? And then they're gonna take it off. And I tell you that in response to what you just said. Because sometimes to get people to talk about themselves, maybe you have to tell them something about you.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to get them going.
You have to model some behaviors actually.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
modeling, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm talking to Mr. Sammy Langevine, and folks are coming in late, but I'm glad that they're here. Shelly Ann McCann was impressed with what you were talking about. She said, wow. And Leslie Ward is saying, so true. Sammy, a lot of men, this Father's Day, and happy Father's Day in advance to you. A lot of men don't have children, Sammy. Just like Mother's Day, there was a lot of women without children. How do you connect with men who stand in the gap as fathers, lost their children perhaps?
Yeah. One of the things, the group that I'm telling you about here that I'm in, I find it very interesting. We got a men's fellowship as part of the group. And in fact, one of the days I'll invite you to come in with us, because it doesn't need to be people alone in the community. We've got guys in the group that some of them are Vietnam veterans. I mean, when you sit and hear some of the stuff that those guys went through, right? It's amazing. And they survived and they're here. And one of the things I like about the group, because women are much better doing it. Women would sit down and they would discuss.
Oh yeah, they would talk till 2 in the morning.
Stuff and everything and so on. Men don't like to talk. And I take this opportunity to mention things like, get screening, prostate cancer, colonoscopy, see a doctor. It's not embarrassing. And we've got, because of the area that I live in, we've got a lot of Howard University alumni in our group, and some of them are medical professionals and so on. And we talk about everything. We talk about, as you mentioned, people who have never had children, infertility. And a lot of times when we deal with infertility, we always think it's the woman's fault. Men have infertility problems too. And
Tell it.
It can be checked out easily, and it can be solved. But we don't talk about it. Men don't like to talk about these things, right? Men have issues with
erectile dysfunction. Yeah, talk about it, Sammy.
Yeah. Let us. A lot of these things, they can be solved, but men are closed in, right? If I miss an appointment, my wife is going to get on my case, right? She is going to tell me, she just came in, so I have to be quiet about this. No, I like to eat some of the things.
She won't hear you, Sammy. She won't hear you, Sammy. She won't hear you. Sammy.
I'm a man. I like to sit down and I have some chicken wings and so on and things. My wife don't allow me to have, those things. So when I go to Georgia, my son would say, "All right, Dad, Friday is chicken wings night." And
you indulge.
Yeah,
you got your bad behavior.
Yeah, but my wife looks after me better than I look after myself, because she's very meticulous about this. Your blood pressure, don't eat salt. Fortunately, we got a decent gym here, and I like to exercise anyway. So I hit the gym Monday. When I can't do it every day now, age catching up with me. But I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But you surround yourself with a group of men who can talk about these things. It's not embarrassing. These are things that are useful to us. You sit there and you have a problem and you die because you don't reach out to somebody who could tell you, man, we can solve that problem, right?
And men don't realize they deprive their family when they die this young.
It is
selfish,
but you see, it's a man thing. It's a man thing. That's why, DJ Quinn, you and I know each other, and we can be candid with each other, and these things I talk to you about because I think it's important, and I'm glad you give me
this month of June, of course.
Yeah,
mental health. Talk about that. Mental health, even.
Yeah, you give me the opportunity to mention some of these things. These are some of the discussions I have with my group, and I'm glad to share it with you guys. A lot of these problems are solvable. It's not that you can't solve, a blood test here, this there, and see a doctor. It's a good thing. It's not a weakness. Do your blood work. Check it out.
But what is wrong with even a woman doctor sticking a finger in your posterior, your anal area to check you out to make sure that you're healthy and well? What's wrong with that? She probably wouldn't even see you again till another year. What's wrong with that? What's our problem?
By the way, let me mention this because one of the doctors in our group mentioned it to me. I just had my colonoscopy last year, and the doctor told me
that's every 5 years or 10 years, right?
Yeah, well, if they find polyps, it'll be 5 years. If they find nothing, it's 10 years. But that's not the thing. He said, well, you're over 70 now, so this is going to be your last one. And apparently, whatever it is, colon cancer, it's a very slow moving cancer. So they feel that, you don't got to do it over it again. So I was talking to the doctor in our group, and he said, I know they tell you you're not supposed to get it after 70, but you're planning on living 5 more years? You plan on being up to 75? Well, yeah. He said, well, don't let them tell you. You tell them you want it. And sometimes you have to advocate for yourself, right? Yeah. The doctor will tell you, a lot of times they're making these things, they got other metrics that they're using, insurance thing, who will pay for this and so on. Their concern is not about your health. They tell me now that, oh, you're 70 now, you don't have to come for another colonoscopy. You're done with that. So what happens if I get colon cancer at 75? You have to, sometimes you can't let the doctor tell you what is good for you. You have to tell him what you think is good for you. Advocate for yourself.
That's right. That's right. Father's Day is this weekend, Sammy, and why we ought to celebrate fathers this weekend?
Yeah, because when it's Mother's Day, we buy a nice thing for the mothers and so on. The fathers usually get a tie or some socks. I have enough socks. Fathers are, a lot of times fathers are taken for granted, right? And you only have to look at the ball games. When the guys come and they score a touchdown and say, "Hi, Mom." It's like, I'm here.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my mom.
Yeah, we're here too. But then that's up to us. I was happy to see the last, NBA finals, how the MVP was, thankful for his dad and so on. Because I look back at my life, and I mentioned before the things with mom. Moms and dads are different. Men and women are just different. My mom would try her best. If everybody want 5 different meals, she would try to cook them all. The dad would say, no, stop that. You can't do that. And that's the difference. You have to, one of the things that I have observed from my own parents, children will pick up on dissent quickly, right? If you were in a home with a mom and a dad, and you hear the dad said, boy, don't do that, even if you think he's wrong, don't confront that parent in front of the child, because you're starting a problem right there already. Because children will see that opening and they will milk that. You have to air your disagreement in the bedroom when y'all together, but don't show that disagreement in front of the children. That's a dangerous situation you're starting there.
So we're celebrating our fathers this weekend, and you're going to be celebrated by your 3 kids, and I hope I'm celebrated by mine. But but we live in that expectation that, you know, maybe they'll recognize our sacrifices and celebrate us, right? But if they don't, we still fine with it. We still will continue to be fathers regardless, right?
Yeah.
But as a father, Sammy, you know that you made 2 daughters and 1 son,
Mm.
and your daughter aspired, got good education, became a lawyer. She became a first lady, and she is serving women, empowering women around the world. And then all of a sudden, you are somebody saying to you or saying to the world that your daughter is not really a woman, she's a man. How would you take that?
I don't. That first lady knows exactly who she is. She knows who she is. What he said has no impact on. What that showed is that didn't show who she is. It showed me who he is.
Okay.
One of the things, and I told you, my 2 daughters, I got my 2 daughters first. And I'm going to say something here, and this has to do with relationships. One of the reasons the education was so important to me, right? Any person that my daughters choose, right, to have, and I'm good with whoever they choose. But my job as a parent, I want my daughters to be in a position to take care of herself. Anybody she chooses is because she wants to, not because she has to. I don't want my daughters to be with somebody because he is taking care of her. I want my daughters to be able to take care of themselves. Once you do that, whoever you choose to be with is a choice. It's not because you can't do better. And that's why I started this conversation with you about education. And education is a game changer. Education is the only thing that can change your status. And what it does too, when you have something in your head, the education in your head, nobody can take that out. It's there, right? Now, how you use it is up to you. And let me be straight about this. Education is not common sense. They got people who got common sense who are not educated. Education is a tool, and it's important to you to learn how to use that tool. There's some educated idiots, you know, and all they do is they're like a savant. All they can do is this one thing. Education used properly can change lives. And education combined with common sense is a potent weapon.
So true. So you wouldn't take that at all, Sammy. From what I'm hearing, you wouldn't take that at all. What would you do, Sammy?
No.
If somebody tells you internationally that your daughter is not a female.
No, I just ignore him. Just ignore him.
Okay.
Because it shows who he is, right? That's an accomplished woman. You don't respond to idiots. Don't let people drag you in the gutter because they're in the gutter. You know, our parents used to say, misery like company. Because they're in the gutter, they're in the gutter. He wants somebody to respond to his stupidity. Don't give him that privilege, man.
Sammy, we gotta pause on that because I know they're gonna deal with it. I think on behalf of all of us, we should be seeing some lawsuits. But I don't know. She's a smart woman, and
Yeah,
I believe it's going to come eventually. But I
she's an
believe
attorney
that's
too.
what I would advise my daughter.
Remember, she's an attorney too.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Uh,
the thing about politics, DJ Quinn, is sometimes you ain't got to fight the battle. You can send somebody else to fight that battle for you,
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure, for
and
sure.
that's the way you deal with certain things.
Yeah. You know, one woman who I know fought a lot of battles. She was one of the first women soldiers in the Guyana Defense Force. She's a socialite in the ATL, and you've attended her events, man, because
Yeah,
she make you come on out and dress up
I
real good.
you talking.
Captain Gwendolyn Fredericks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's your take on women in the military and also in our events that are so well organized and when you get a chance to really uh, dress immaculately as an adult?
Well, you know, I don't know how many of you have known this, but one of my good friends and my brother Lloyd. Lloyd used to be on Radio Dem at one time, Lloyd Langevine, and he was also a graduate of Bat 6, the Cadet Officer Corps in GDF, Bat 6. And that was the first group of cadet officers that both male and female officers trained together, batch number 6. And one of my good friends, a young lady by the name of Paulette Pollard, she just passed away. She was one of the group from that batch 6, that cadet officer group. And she just passed away in California. And it was a sad thing because, as I told you before, it was her dad who taught me surveying, who I went up to Campbellville with. So I know the family well from Kitty, and that was a sad state of affairs for me to hear that Paulette died because she was one of the female officers, and she was just a good person.
I said my condolence, man. Yeah, but yeah, you attended Captain Gwendolyn Fredericks events. Tell us about, your experience in terms of, putting on your nice, you dress sharp, Sammy,
Well,
and have you had the young men come and ask you, sir, how do I make my bow tie? How do I look like you? Do you have young men coming to you and ask
yeah,
you
yeah,
questions
it did.
about stuff?
I actually, showed my son how to actually tie a bow tie, and
Hmm.
not use the clip on and so on. Um, I think, as I told you, I started as a surveyor, and we're not known for our dress codes,
Okay.
but occasionally it's nice to go out and dress up, and Gwen ensured that at least once a year or once every 5 years or so on, we do that. And it's good to do that, just to put on your best clothes and show up out there. And I've often heard the comment that you clean up nicely, and I'm thinking,
You're sharp, Sammy. You're sharp. The first time I
when,
saw you, had a nice white camera, man. The first time I saw a white camera, I
yeah,
always remember
remember
that
that camera?
story.
I still have it. I still have that camera. Right?
That is awesome, man. It was a fashion show. But
Yeah.
you just came back from Guyana. Shout out to you, Captain Gwendolyn Fredericks, man. Thank you so much for keeping the diaspora together in your events. She is really a socialite, man. She makes people come from
I,
all
I
over the
love
world to her events.
I
And
love Captain Fredericks, man.
she actually sent the invitation by mail, and
Yeah.
she definitely, make people come out from all parts of the woods.
Oh,
And
she
lots of
does
people are
that.
not going no place.
She
They
does
stay home
that.
and they die.
She
Yeah,
sends the invitation to you, and she says you're coming.
you come in, yeah. I surprised her a couple of times, showed up there for a birthday, like Billy Ocean suddenly. I like to do that sometimes to my people who motivate me. She's one of my motivators that got me back on radio. I was trying to run away from that skill set, when I went to Seattle. And she said, Cleveland, what you doing with them skills, boy? I'm going to hook you up with Bobby. And that's how I said, I don't want to go back on radio. She said, look, boy. And so I had to get back on radio just because of Captain Gwendolyn Fredericks. Thank you so much for motivating me. And today, I'm in demand. I'm always thankful for people who speak life into my life. Thank you so much.
Don't run away from your talents. Yeah. Don't run away
I
from
know,
your
man. I try, man. So many things. I sometimes don't even want to remember that I serve as law enforcement. But every once in a while, these skills come back into play, and then people recognize it, and I have to step in and be certain roles in the society. So you can't hide. You could run, but you can't hide.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But you, Sammy, you went home to Guyana a couple of times, and Guyana just celebrated its 60th independence.
Yeah, I just came back.
Yeah.
Came back about last week or week before the last. I had, as I told you, I ran into the guy who I told you worked with me, who used to drink, right?
Right.
I ran into him too, and some of my old buddies from high school were, over there from Canada, and from London and so on. So we had, and a good friend of mine, one of my classmates, he lives over there part time. He's teaching at UG now, and so it was we had a reunion of sorts, right? The only depressing part of it is, I gotta tell you, is the flooding, and from somebody who, and I've been in surveying, been in engineering, I know about that. What is happening in Guyana now, from what I even from Newtown where I am, there seems to be no building code. There's residential and commercial next to each other. You have a little 2-story house here and another 5-story house right next to it, and the buildings are getting bigger, and because they're getting bigger and they're getting more, you have more outflow, more water coming out from toilets and everything. And I remember when 40 feet was a big canal. Now 40 feet looks like half the size that it used to be, and it's clogged up with all kinds of stuff. So you're having more outflow and less drainage, and half the cocos and the sluices that were there, they're not working, and those were built by the Dutch, and they were very effective. We're building a lot of bridges and roads and so on in Guyana, and that is nice, that is sexy, that is thing. But the important things, the things that you don't see a lot, is the maintenance. And if you don't maintain those drains and keep them clean and maintain the cocoa, you're going to keep having this problem all the time. I am seeing people walking in water, the downstairs apartments flooding, and so on. It's a lot of rain and a lot of flooding in Guyana, and that is depressing, because I know it's fixable. It's not something that can't be fixed, and I'm looking at it now. We got the money now. Why we still got to go through this, right? That was the only depressing for me as a visitor. You can go there with your US dollars, and the exchange is 200 to 1, and I spent 2 weeks there, or you can have a good time. But think about the people who live in there.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And like I tell you, I just came back, and I see what's happening.
60 years, Sammy. We got a new bridge, airport, lots of big buildings. What's your take on development? Are you think that I know you talked about the irrigation, drainage and irrigation, but generally infrastructure.
The bridge is impressive, right? The new bridge that they got. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the old one, with the old pontoon bridge. Somebody said maybe they should keep it there for trucks or whatever. The problem with that is every time that opens, you got traffic will back up, right? Because that you got to stop traffic for the ships to pass. The new bridge, the ships can pass underneath, right? It's like it's a big bridge, right? And it's high, so you ain't got to open and shut that one. The ships.
It has the incline.
Yeah,
Okay.
the incline They've had a fatality on it, I heard before, because
Yeah,
somebody,
a truck came. Right.
yeah, the truck rolled back on, he could handle the gears and he rolled back and killed somebody, right? But the bridge itself is impressive, and I think it's well built. Uh,
Okay.
I was rather surprised the other day to see the Soesdijk to Linden Highway was flooded. I've never seen that flooded before. So, you know, there's just to show there was a lot of rain, but then those things can be circumvented. It's just a question of maintenance and drainage.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you got to do that are not impressive. People don't really see that. Maintenance is important because you know if you don't do it, it'll come back to bite you.
Yeah, yeah. And I know traffic congestion is now a major issue.
Oh,
What are your thoughts about that? I know there's a lot of electric bikes now. Everybody got a car, like 4 or 5 cars in one home now.
those electric bikes are dangerous because they're swooping in and out the traffic and so on. And what I observed is there are a lot of roundabouts. Um, but roundabouts, Britain has a lot of roundabouts, and you can have roundabouts or you can have traffic control. You can have signals with light. Um, Roundabouts are effective if it's handled properly and proper signage. You got to know who to yield and who not to yield and who got to go first and so on. But I
Mm.
noticed Guyana is it's a crapshoot, man. Who pushed the nose first and so on. Everybody just you know.
Oh, aggression, yeah.
Yeah,
No, no,
it's no
lack of-
rules, right? No rules. Everybody, it's a free for all. That is why I have decided at my age now, and I think I was a pretty good driver. I drive taxi in New York City, right? Um, I am not inclined to drive in Guyana.
yeah, yeah. Me too. When I go there, I let people, my nephews and my nieces there
Yeah,
drive me. My little niece was saying, "Uncle, I'll come get you." I was like, I felt so bad for the young lady to come at 7, 8:30 at night to pick me up the East Coast. I was like, nah. But when I saw her drive afterwards, I was like, I'm so impressed
yeah.
that these young women are handling themselves on the road so
Know
well.
your
And more so than
limitation.
the men.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Know your limitation. I'm not going driving over there, man.
yeah, yeah. But Sammy, one of the other things I know, you went there, you just got back. Many citizens here in the diaspora wants to access government grants and the support programs. What advice would you offer them? I mean, for the 100,000, the 500 US. Um, what's your advice and people here in the diaspora going home to get that?
Well, it's you have to have certain things. I don't know how many people got a tin because there's a
The
process.
number, okay, okay,
You get a tin, probably a board certificate, or if you got an ID, and I think they need a local phone, right?
okay. Phone
Once
number,
you
okay,
get that, you also, and this might be the biggest hurdle. You got to have a bank account
okay.
because
Open up
it's
a bank
going to
account.
go in a bank account. So that might be the biggest hurdle, right? Because that's a process, right?
Right,
You know,
right.
you,
Especially if you don't have local documents.
that's the thing, right? That's the process. You got to go through that and so on. But that is accessible. You got to have that, and like I say, if you got the documents, you need to have a local address, and your documents should show that, right? Your ID card or something like that, right?
Mm.
I
So,
had the old driver's license, the red book from since
right, right. The one with the staple with the
yeah,
staples clip on the various
and I forget.
endorsements.
I got to go look for it. It's somewhere in the I don't know the
Yeah.
red book. I understand they have the card now, but
Okay. So yeah, I was impressed with GRA's building and
mm,
uh, back and but you haven't gone to collect a bar yet because that was one that was really turned me off with the mediocrity with collecting a barrel or a box from the wharf, you have to at least go to like 7 people,
Yeah.
and they're using staple machine, and the place is hot and all this other stuff. So many people that have computer skills there, I would think that they would have it digitally by now, but
You
I
would
guess
think.
they're getting better when it comes to that.
Nah, I don't. You know, one of the things that I always find fascinating is the deeds registry.
Okay.
That has some big old ledgers and so on. It's like, you know, that got to change, right? Yeah, you know.
Yeah, we got to be moving up. We got to be moving up.
Yeah.
And this is the time for us to show that we are moving up. I want to say good night to you, Kurt Archer, and to you, Sharon. I think they should keep both entry to Georgetown from both sides. So she think they should keep the old bridge too. Um, and it might be a good idea. Might be a good thing to keep them to help with congestion. What do you think? Both bridges?
Well, the reason I thought that might be effective is because of that incident that I told you. I don't know how many people, how they train in some. The guy who rolled back with the 18-wheeler on somebody, I don't know how true it is, but I heard even, you know, his paperwork wasn't even in order or
As a
something.
young man, probably don't have the kind of skills.
Yeah,
You know to drive, but not a hydraulic truck.
yeah,
You know,
right.
and we know over here is a lot of training to get your CDL over here.
If you get a commercial, you know, it's important. So
Yeah, yeah.
it probably would be nice to have, especially from a planning perspective, to use that old pontoon bridge for heavy duty trucks and just leave the high one for cars. But I said the problem will still be the backup of traffic. But if you're using it for trucks alone, it might help the problem because
Right.
clearly the guys can handle the gears on the high truck because it is a steep bridge.
Okay, okay. Sammy, we have our youths, man, and we losing our skill set. We don't have enough people, especially in the USA. Our youths are not taking certain jobs, CNAs, in the health field, in the skills trade. What are some of the opportunities you saw in Guyana for young people, or even here in the US?
Well, I I just had my niece. She just finished her CNA in New York, and I guess her goal eventually is to go for RN. Um, I don't know the process how to go through that. I don't. I know more about the construction aspect of things, and I just think that one of the things we have to be mindful of, and this is in information feedback. There there are a lot of, I think NYU is, if you don't have a certain amount of money, you can get, like a free ride in terms of the medical field, up to an MD. Um, it's just that it's a guidance. We need programs to encourage our kids where to go, because we can talk here, but our children are getting more information from online,
Yeah, social media. Yeah,
social media, and some of the information they're getting is not productive. And I don't know, I'm not quite sure how to deal with that, other than just keep talking to parents. And we started this conversation. You asked me about how I grew up in Newtown, and the whole street was family.
yeah.
Everybody was looking
Village.
for you.
Yeah,
Everybody was looking out for you, and and we're losing that. And I don't think we may not have to think big. We may just have to just think smaller in our own community, our children and our nieces and nephews. and keep them close to us as possible. Because sometimes if you think too big, you might overextend yourself.
Yeah.
Just,
Get burnt out. Yeah.
yeah, just keep it small and let that widen. Um,
Makes sense.
that's the only. I don't have any grand scheme, any solution. I don't know. All I know is, as I told you before, and you mentioned that you do it too. I Whenever my children or my nieces or my nephew call to me and say, Uncle Sammy, just pick up the phone. Don't be too busy to respond to the children. It's not that difficult. Just respond to them. You don't know what guidance you can give them just
And
to
engage them too. Engage them,
engage.
do active listening. Don't listen to respond, but listen to support, empower, you know.
DJ Queen, that's all we could do. That's all we could do. Just stay engaged as much as possible. And you're not you're not going to win everyone. You're going to tell them some things that maybe they don't want to hear, and but that's fine too. Um, as long as the advice you give in, you have to be sure it's coming from a good place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think I kept you long enough. There's a segment I call Rapid Fire. I know your wife probably trying to offer you dinner. I see you looking over to your left a whole lot.
I had my dinner ready.
Okay, good, good. Well, you can't eat dinner too late. So, Pat, please excuse us. You're probably making too much noise in the house. You probably need to be in your bed now, too, because
If I know my wife, she's probably sleeping.
she probably listening to you, man. Watch it now. One word, Sammy. One word answer. So let's move on into this before I get into 11 o'clock hour. Your favorite place in Guyana? What would that be?
The seawall.
The seawalls. Okay, nice. And your favorite Guyanese dish?
A good mixed low min.
Mixed lau mein. I used to get some from Rossignol, man. I could never get that smell and that taste here in the U.S. since. Yeah, I used to get mine from Rossignol. Yeah, Pomeroon or Georgetown?
Pomeroon all the time. I love
Okay.
Pomeroon River, man.
Leadership or management? Which would you choose?
Leadership. Right.
Okay, awesome. Folks are hearing you. You're doing fine in rapid fire. Fatherhood is in one word.
Concentration all the time.
Okay.
Focus.
Who's gonna focus? Awesome, awesome. All right. Favorite childhood memory?
My grandparents' house in Den Amstel.
The Namstel. That's where I was born.
You were
Awesome.
born in Amstel?
Yeah.
Incidentally, most of my family, they still live there on the street they used to call Statue Street.
Statue Street. Okay.
It is now called
Yep.
Langevine Street.
Okay. Don't ask me. I left there a long time when I
Yeah.
was probably 4 or 5.
That's where my
The
parents are from.
I know the Brick Road and all this stuff people tell me about. I know some Jordans. I know some Adams over there.
Those are people I know, the Jordans.
Okay. Yeah. My older brothers and sisters might know because they went to Blankenburg. So
Yeah.
they might more know you and other people. Yeah, but I left there and I just remember seeing some fowls in the yard and a
Yeah.
sapodilla tree nearby. And my
Yeah.
mom said my neighbor's string was buried under the tamarind tree. So I always try to go back and see if I could find that tamarind tree.
I love Den Amstel, man.
Yeah, but your biggest career lesson, what was that, Sammy?
Learn from anybody that you can.
Okay. Wow. That's a
Any
nugget.
and everybody.
Okay. You're never too big to learn. And your most beautiful river in Guyana?
Pomeroon.
The Pomeroon, I guess. I know it would have been the Pomeroon. I don't know why I asked that. How do you see Guyana in 2050?
I wish I could be more optimistic. Much of the same, right? I tried starting business in Guyana. I went back and I lost a lot of money, right?
You and I both.
Because I don't know, like I said, I have no solution how to deal with the level of corruption that I see. Incidentally, you know, when I was coming up to the airport to come back, a vehicle was pulling down like in the corner, and my brother who was driving just kind of pulled aside to pass him, and the police stopped us. He said
Wow.
we were overtaken on a yellow line. I suspect he was just looking for a raise, right? But fortunately, one of my brothers was an assistant commissioner, so when he said Langevine, like he heard the name and he said just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man.
you know, I don't know how to deal with the level of corruption. How you back out to that.
Mm. But what are you grateful for? My last question. What are you grateful for today?
The just seeing the way my children are, and I'm not talking about how much they're working for or what education they had, just that they're good people. I, they have a lot of empathy and, and and the closeness to each other, how supportive they are to each other. That is the important thing to me. The support that they give to each other.
Awesome, awesome. Sammy, before we close, would you please share a Father's Day message to fathers in Guyana, the Caribbean, and throughout the diaspora?
All the fathers, the present fathers, and the fathers who to be. Okay, sometimes you have to focus on your children to the extent of yourself, in spite, because after a while we're grown. It's the next generation we have to focus on. Keep that in mind all the time, and remember, everything we do, they're watching us. Be conscious of everything that we do.
I am speaking to Sammy Langevine. I am telling you what a great, great conversation we had here tonight. So, Mr. Sammy Langevine, thank you for sharing your remarkable journey from Campbellville to the Pomeroon River, from surveyor to project manager, from father to mentor. Your story reminds us that leadership is built through service, perseverance, and commitment to family and community. On behalf of Forefront Today, and on behalf of Sierra 365 and my Facebook page, I want to say, on behalf of the global audience, happy Father's Day to you. Thank you for your service to humankind, to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, here in the USA. And I always would say, there's always a chance that I didn't ask enough questions of you. And I don't want to sign off without allowing you to let the world know something else that I might have missed about Sammy Langevine. Is there something you want to tell us?
Well, thank you for having me on and introducing me to your audience. My attitude towards life in general is don't take yourself too seriously. You're not that important. Just focus on doing the right thing, and it's going to work out all right. Thank you for having me, DJ Quinn.
Awesome. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. This is where storytelling meets good character right here. This is CRL 365. I am DJ Crane, reminding you that every life has a story, every journey has a purpose, and every father leaves a legacy. Good night, and God bless, and happy Father's Day to all of us this weekend. Make sure you celebrate. Make sure you go out tomorrow and celebrate with the Knicks, and make sure you follow the World Cup. FIFA World Cup. I want to say good night to all of you. Thank you so much, Sammy. Thank you to all my audience. Thank you, all of you who left a comment in the chat box. And those of you who are coming on in late, you are late. Good night to you, my friend, Oren Jackson. Good night to all of you. Take care of yourselves and each other, and continue to make kindness a lifestyle.
From Campbellville streets to the Pomeroon tide, you carried your dreams with honor and pride. Surveyor by trade, with compass in hand, mapping the future across Guyana's land. 25 men looking up to your lead, building through challenges, planting good seed. Through rivers and forests, through sunshine and rain, you taught us that purpose is greater than gain. Oh, Sammy, we salute you today. A father, a leader who showed us the way. From Guyana to America, your legacy shines, written in hearts and beyond the timelines. Happy Father's Day, this song we bring, for the wisdom and love that your life still sings. Back when the notes were written by hand, no satellites guiding the work on the land, drafting through evenings by lantern light glow, creating the pathways that help Guyana grow. Now robots and drones do what crews used to do, but they can't replace the character found in you. The lessons of patience, integrity too, remain as a compass for all that we do. Oh, Sammy, we salute you today. A father, a leader who showed us the way. From Guyana to America, your legacy shines, written in hearts and beyond the timelines. Happy Father's Day, this song we bring, for the wisdom and love that your life still sings. To your children and family, your story lives on, a reminder that hard work can never be gone. From Atlanta to Maryland, your influence grows, like the mighty Pomeroon River that steadily flows. Oh, Sammy, we salute you today. A father, a mentor who paved the way. May your journey inspire every daughter and son to finish with honor what they have begun. Happy Father's Day from DJ Quinn, my friend. May God's richest blessings upon you descend. Campbellville raised you, Guyana shaped you, fatherhood crowned you, and your legacy continues.